CROWNCAST.
Yo.
Here we are. How's everyone doing? Internet? Good? Awesome. Well, this is CROWNCAST. We're the co-founders, owners of Crown Design Group. We're an AVL integration company, design build, and we do this podcast, just kind of hang out, chat, talk about gear, talk about projects we're on. Ben, how you doing?
Pretty good. Not too shabby. Had a couple good meetings this morning with some new stuff. I think we're going to chat about it a little bit. Some new gear.
Yep.
Which is cool.
And we have an amazing guest today.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, amazing.
Amazing.
Don't build that up too much.
He's going to break the internet today with products, new products. We have Mr. Michael Cooley from Mainline Marketing.
I feel like we should have like a
Hurrah!
clap.
Need like
going.
a clap track or something like that. This podcast was done in front of a live studio audience.
I mean, technically.
No, it's great to be here. So, by the way, we finally ditched the marketing. We are
did you?
We are
My
now
bad.
just Mainline.
Okay,
no,
Mainline.
it's great. 'cause
Well, there you go.
We just started and we're like switching over the URL. I know it's a little thing, but it's one of those things when you throw the word marketing, especially in your email address.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many times your email just goes like straight to somebody else's
I bet.
spam folder. So
Right.
we're just like,
So it's just Mainline.
it's just Mainline. It'll be, I think the URL will be like Mainline Reps or something like that. But I think marketing is kind of an older term that manufacturers reps used to do. There's still a lot of firms out there, but anymore it's not really inclusive to what we really do. I mean,
Yeah.
we do some. I'm going to have some people at Mainline are going to be like, what do you mean we don't do marketing? So there's that.
Yeah, we kind of get the whole Crown Design thing, Crown Design Group. And yeah, we do design, but we do all this other stuff too. But there's also other integrators out there that they essentially just do design. So we get lumped into this weird world of like, you just do design, or do you want to do
Almost like a consultant.
the whole design build?
Yeah.
Yeah, almost like a consultant. So
Well, that's pretty big news.
Mainline.
I think we've always just called you guys Mainline anyway.
I do too.
I
I
don't
have
think
always
I ever just
introduced
said
myself
Mainline
as that.
marketing.
The funny thing is, like, for people who don't even know what I do, which is kind of funny because 16 years ago when I started Mainline, I didn't know that this position existed. But, so just for people that don't get it, because I still run into people all the time that are like, I don't understand who you work for.
Right.
So an independent manufacturer's rep, the philosophy it is an AV industry is relatively small. So a lot of these manufacturers can't really afford to have local people spread out across the entire country.
Right.
So what they typically do is they break down the country into territories and they hire firms like us to directly represent them. So for lines such as Shure and Allen Heath and Barco and Absen, we're pretty much the only thing different from us being a part of them is we don't have the Shure or Allen Heath email address.
Right.
But but that's who we are. So we're here to we're here to help you guys. We're here to help your customers and just be a resource for all of the brands we represent. And we've gotten some good ones. We've gotten some good ones now. I really like where we're at as a company.
Yeah, tell us about some of the manufacturers that you represent.
All right. Well, the current lineup, there's probably about 14 or 15. Last time I lost count. But I would say some of the stronger ones is we are the Shure reps. We do Absen for video walls now. We just started with Elation lighting.
Saw that.
The very newest one is we just became the ClearCom reps. So we have that as well.
Okay.
Allen and Heath. And then from there, we just Listen Technologies, HOSA, SKB, Visionary Solutions, which I'm really, really excited about. We've done a lot of AV over IP in the past, and this is probably the company that I'm most excited about representing as far as AV over IP.
Yep.
So that's been a really, really good one. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, so if somebody out there, my manufacturers are listening and I forgot you, I still love you.
So how did you, so you said, so you were involved in starting the company?
No, actually, I wasn't. Mainline has been around since 87, I think.
crazy.
Somewhere around there is when it started.
Okay.
Doug Swan was the original owner, and
Gotcha.
Clinton, the current owner, took over probably about 12, 13 years ago.
But you have been at Mainline for
16.
a while, 16 years.
16, yeah.
Okay.
So I think Clinton took over 18, 20 years ago. Yeah.
How do you guys like, how does it work in the rep world? Like, are you
stressed?
Well,
Yes.
we know some of the manufacturers that you have now that someone else used to have. Is there like a competition to try and grab up these manufacturers?
So there's a lot of integration companies, right? So we always run into people on jobs, or maybe you're bidding on the same thing or something like that. Are you guys actively like going after manufacturers that you want to rep, or are they coming to you because they see your background, they see your what you've done in the past?
That's a
Mainline's grown a lot. Like
we really have,
because we've known you guys for a long time. We've had a relationship for a long time, and you all of a sudden are gathering like more and more of the big AV guys.
It does seem like it's really snowballed in just the last 5 or 6 years, which I'm really thankful for. I mean, I love where we're at. I remember when I started with Mainline 16 years ago, if somebody said, "Oh yeah, eventually you're going to be the Shure rep," and things like that, I'd have been like, "Okay, sure."
Right.
No pun intended. But here we are. And to your point, there's sort of, to me, I feel like there's a kind of a code there. Like most rep firms would never try to basically snake another line from another company. We've always been the kind of company that we're like, if it's available, then we hope that they come to us. Right. Most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, manufacturers seek us out and start the process. Mm-hmm. And we will usually even say, why are you considering a change? Because there's been a couple times we were like, I know the rep firm from before and they were great. So what's with the change?
Right.
And I think rep firms, for the most part, we're competitive, but at the same time, we know how to commiserate with each other. So there's never really a tension between competitive rep firms. I think sometimes it's because we're the only ones that understand like our unique position being kind of in the middle.
Right. Yeah.
So when we all get together, we can all like commiserate about things that like only we would have experienced our pain. So I think, there's some great rep firms out there too.
Yeah, I bet there are some manufacturers out there that just kind of hop around. Like they, just the same way that a client might do.
Yeah.
They kind of hop around, like grass is always greener, trying this, trying that. That could be kind of annoying.
Well, and some lines aren't really a good fit. I mean, we've always had a philosophy of if we can't really do the proper service, we can't really represent a line 100%.
Yeah.
Then we shouldn't be their reps.
Right.
And we've run into situations like that. Unfortunately, we take on, you take on one large line, and then all of a sudden you're having a hard time representing, one of the smaller manufacturers. And sometimes you just have to take a hard look at it and go, we are not doing the best job for you, and we would like to make a recommendation of these guys or gals over here would be great.
Right.
So yeah, it does switch around sometimes. I kind of like where we're at right now. I'd love it if this is permanent.
I think y'all do a great job. It's been awesome working with y'all. And
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I do love working with you guys. You guys have done some great work. I've seen part of the podcast now. So again, my first one. So I'm happy about it.
It's only our 12th one or whatever. So
yeah, we're still figuring this out too.
But veterans at this point, I guess.
Yeah. So we just had you at one of our clients' place. We're chatting about new microphones because there's been some new products that came out from Shure that are kind of game changers. There's kind of been a game changing technology that's kind of launched out this year in some other microphone manufacturing.
Yeah.
But Shure has this new product. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, let me start with, my favorite. We basically showed it off at Infocom. The funny thing is I saw a prototype of this probably about 2 to 3 years ago with absolutely no details.
Right. We've been hearing talk of this for years probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But it's one of those things like going all the way back to, my days of, being an audio engineer and things like that, is if you would have told me that I could have 24 channels of wireless microphones on a 1RU box,
right,
I'd have told you were crazy. That would have I would have expected flying cars before or something like that. But here we go. So we basically put out the ANX4 and Infocom and a 1RU box that'll either do 16 channels of Axient Digital or 24 channels of ULXD. Right. And it's amazing. So
yeah, and what is that new technology? What was the difference? Like we went from just RF, digital RF. Now where are we at?
So I'm not going to come off like an expert, but we basically just leverage WMAS, or we all call WMAS, which is pretty much kind of an open standard. So it's not based on any technology. There's some other manufacturers who are leveraging their own way. I think the only rules is it has to have a minimum power requirement per channel, and you can't have a block larger than 6 megahertz. But what it does is, or at least the way Shure does it, is we are finding a way to be able to pack more channels into a tighter space. So in the case of the ANX4 and ADPSM, which we'll talk about here in a second, in a 6 megahertz block, which is pretty much one television station block,
right,
we can fit up to 30 units now.
Wow.
And I think that's one of the places that we kind of have to go. Is most people are painfully aware that we've already been through 2 frequency spectrum sell-offs.
Yep.
And there's nothing that guarantees that we're not going to see another one at some point.
Right.
Although I do believe that there are now people with the FCC that are actually lobbying for, preserving the microphone space. I know Shure and Sennheiser have both sent people to Washington, D.C. to kind of lobby and fight for this. Because I think at one point, people just didn't understand that wireless mics were really, really a thing and that this was going to affect it. So WMAS is letting each manufacturer kind of develop their own technology based around this standard. And it's nice because it basically uses a carrier signal, so we just call that a channel, that I can pack X number of channels of audio into it. My intermodulation is kind of packed around that. So instead of worrying about like the harmonics of it taking up, more spectrum, we're allowed to put more channels of audio into a single space. Even more so than our traditional narrowband technology. So what ULXD, Axient Digital, all those things, we can even pack more channels into a tighter space than even those. And I think that I'm not saying that that's going to replace our current technology. However, it does make for a better solution, especially on large channel counts. If you ever look at some of the larger metro areas out there, it's an RF wasteland. There's very little room at all to operate. So WMAS in those situations lets us get back to a higher channel count when we relatively have very little space to work with.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It used to be, I mean, it still is to a certain point because we still sell the RF based, units all the time. And I mean, we have essentially, I mean, we use Workbench a lot to try and find frequencies. We have our own spectral analyzer that we can bring out on site prior and make sure that we find the right bandwidths that we want to use. But for a while there, it was wild, wild west. And everyone, it seems like we work with a lot of churches, obviously. So everything's fine on Thursday during rehearsal. And Sunday morning, you have some radio network or TV network playing something that morning, or Super Bowl's in town. Remember that? I mean, up in Tampa or something crazy. Yeah. And all of a sudden, we're getting calls, we're getting this, that, mics aren't working, it's cutting in and out. It's an absolute nightmare.
It really is. And I try to go back to like remembering the analog days. I'm like, how do we even get by? I was the audio engineer for the Lightning for about 7 years. And downtown Tampa in and of itself was horrible. There was very little space that we could have carved out. I would literally have to tell the coordinator for the area that did most of the sports teams, did most of the TV stations, hey, I just bought a new microphone. Give me a frequency that I can run at. And he would say, okay, this one should be safe. And that's what we did. We just parked it there.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. So even when Axient Digital came out, and it was the first line for us that we came up with what we called the G57 band, which was pretty much the entire usable UHF-R spectrum. And that solved a lot of problems. All of a sudden it didn't matter, especially if you were in like the rental touring business, it didn't matter if you accidentally sent G50 versus J52 receivers, and then all of a sudden you got a mismatch. It was just, you could send anything, anywhere, whether it be Dallas, Los Angeles, New York, anything could go anywhere, and you just found the frequencies that worked best and did it. And you didn't have to do all this coordination ahead of time, make sure you send out the right frequency range. So that was, I mean, even in and of itself, that was huge. But now that the whole WMAS thing is really starting to take shape, and I imagine almost all manufacturers are probably going to move to, having this in some way, shape, or form. The nice thing about it is I don't think we're ever going to fully move into WMAS because in smaller areas, rural areas, and smaller channel counts, it really doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
But
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think like some of the cheaper lines would try to take on that technology in a way to where you could, or is this more of a barrier to entry to this would be price, I think, for a lot of anybody, I guess, unless you just have a ton of money. So do you think that kind of technology, even like the 57 band or whatever, would be moved down to like cheaper lines, like even like the QLXD or something like that Shure has? Would they ever take advantage of something like this?
Well, it already did with SLXD. I loved SLXD.
Yeah, that's a great
I
example.
thought it's a great workhorse system. Honestly, I probably deal more with SLXD on a daily basis just because it fits into all these applications. But when they came out with a quad unit that had Dante and wideband,
Right.
that was a really good indicator that it's a trickle-down technology.
Yeah.
So I love that we've added wideband to that. Now, as far as WMAS implementation, I am not the engineering type, so I couldn't tell you if it will trickle down, what it takes to actually put that into a system. I imagine it's got to be a lot. But so we'll see. We'll see if that finds its way to trickle down. I imagine over time that it will.
Yeah.
And especially it's going to become more and more relevant if we ever do see another spectrum sell off.
Right.
Now, and the other cool thing about this is like this will grab if you're in a congested frequency or wherever and you drop off, this thing will grab a frequency for you on its own if you have the right stuff in place, and do it on both the transmitter and receiver for you without you even basically knowing or hearing anything.
It's automated, and
Right.
it is.
Which I think this is
pretty much
a huge
imperceptible.
thing for
Yeah,
this stuff.
let's take a look at it. So this is the ANX4. So this is the magical box, the 1RU magical box that can have up to 24 channels of ULXD wireless. I'm just reading the overview at this point, but
I couldn't put the overview up there.
16 of ADX.
I could have found some more
right?
glamorous shots,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I mean, it's obviously it's a Dante enabled device because good luck putting 24 analog outputs on a 1RU box. But yeah, it's just basically it's a license based system, so you can out of the box it's pretty much just ready to go, and from there it's just a matter of adding licenses per channel, so you can build the system up to its maximum, and then from that point on, if you need to go larger than that, it's another box.
Right.
And then, but now you're talking a massive amount of channels in a 2RU space.
Yeah.
right, it's crazy.
Yeah,
So 48 kilohertz up to, or does it go up to 96? Do you know?
That I believe actually that's a very good question. I am not exactly sure if it does go up to 96 or not.
Stumped them already.
You
let's
stumped
see
me
what
already.
Sure.
Yeah.
has to say.
Hit up those
They don't even
details.
say it.
I will. Yeah,
So,
got to get those details going. So
Yeah, click that. Let's see. Well,
I imagine I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably not at
48.
that high channel count.
yeah, probably 48.
Yeah, I was thinking that 96 is probably a lot to ask for
right,
24 channels,
right.
especially over a Dante connection.
Yeah. So, and this works with a completely different antenna system, right?
Actually, ANX4 does not. So it'll work with the Axient Digital antenna distribution system that's already out there. The nice thing about it is this actually eliminates a lot of time. It'll eliminate the need to even have an antenna distribution system, because if I ran 24 channels of ULXD the good old fashioned way,
Right.
I'm having to combine all these quads and
Right.
this and the other. It's one set of antennas, remote them if I need to, one power supply, and I'm good.
That's great.
Pretty awesome.
Yes.
And if you have to get to the point where you need antenna distribution for this, I'm really looking forward to that high channel count. I'm sure you guys would be too.
I can't imagine. So like you're saying, Ben, this will constantly try to find open frequencies, right? Is that what we're saying?
It's
Combined with what do you need to do that? The spectrum.
so we have a device called we call it the Show Link device.
Okay, that's what I was saying.
It's basically runs on 2.4, and it's almost like an access point type of transceiver.
Right.
So with Axient Digital, it actually comes in two different flavors of transmitters. We have our original AD, so AD1 for belt packs, AD2 for handhelds.
Correct.
And then we have the ADX series. The ADX series is the one that is capable of being changed frequency-wise remotely.
Right.
So in this particular case, you would just have a ShowLink transceiver that's either on the same network as a computer that's running a wireless workbench, or if you like, we do have a hardware box that is kind of a spectrum manager. As we were talking about earlier, sometimes people like to have the hardware because their laptop with wireless workbench is not always going to be connected. So they like having something that permanently stores it. But then the idea being is I do my scan of my area. I pick my primary frequencies, what I need for my channels. I pick all my backup frequencies. And then what will happen is at that point, the system will pretty much automate itself. So if there is showing lack of integrity of an RF signal, and of course, Axient Digital, ADPSM, all of the newer lines have an extra feature, which we call channel quality, which is really looking at the signal to noise ratio of RF, because sometimes just looking at an RF meter is not the best indication if you're really going to have problems or not. We've all seen problems where like, it looked fine and then it started having issues, or I only had one little bar and yet it was rock solid. So we've added something that we call channel quality that is just a signal to noise ratio. It's actually a better indicator of the strength of your signal at that point. So we've added that in. So we've got that. So in this particular case, when it starts to determine that a frequency is compromised for whatever reason, it will automatically switch. Now, AD, I can always switch the receivers. It'll switch the receivers automatically, but then somebody's got to resync the things.
Right.
This on the ADX and the new ADPSM in-ears will do it automatically. It'll do both, and it does it amazingly fast.
Pretty much.
Lossless.
Like,
I mean, the only way we've ever really been able to test it is to have to run like continuous tone just to hear that momentary dropout. But during human speech, we did an install back on Axient Digital for Lockheed Martin. So it was a auditorium lead bunker, but you know, they told us that at some point, of course, they told us, you know, this place, you know, the Secretary of Defense can come in here and give talks. And they were like, dropouts are absolutely a no-no. Like we cannot have any dropouts. So we went out there and helped him set up the system, and we tested it out. So he's like, okay, well, let's try this and see if we can hear, you know, switching frequencies. So I was literally in the control room while he's running around the thing, and I'm just sitting there manually switching frequencies on the Spectrum Manager. He goes, all right, let me know when you started. I'm like, I've already been through 2 switches. Like, I've switched it twice now. And he's like, I heard nothing. I heard nothing. So it is, and the house worship market is really, really becoming popular, especially for the mission critical players. You know, so you've got those people, like, take your pastor, for instance. You cannot have... That's the word cannot go out. Yeah. And so for that, it's a scalable system. So I can create it where that particular microphone or any other ones I deem as mission critical, we can have them automatically switch, and we can scale backwards to places where, like, it doesn't really matter if these particular people go out, we can switch it manually. So
it's like a dream for a audio guy at a church.
One less thing to worry about.
The fact that that thing can just do it for you is pretty unreal.
Yeah, when that came out, and that whole technology, we were just figuring it's too good to be true. Like, we're just waiting for something wrong to happen. It's not going to work, but here it is. It's working.
I know when I first saw the prototype of this, like I said, it was a few years ago. It had no name to it, had no real details. I was just blown away because they just said multi-channel in a 1RU space.
Just that in itself is pretty
I didn't even fathom 24 channels of ULXD at the time. I'm like, oh man, we could put 8, 16, you know, maybe 16 channels or whatever. That's great.
Right.
So I was a little prepared for when it came out, but still, when it came out and they gave us the actual specs on it, I was blown away. So this is one of those things that just as an audio or just an AV geek in general, it's kind of like you said, it's a game changer. It's like, this is one of those things that comes out every once in so many years.
That's what we were saying.
Wow,
this is a big jump.
This is
in
a
the
huge
technology,
jump.
I think, because you see new models of things come out and like it looks a little better, the form factor is a little different or something.
New bells and whistles,
right? But this is like a new. We were talking about a couple months ago. Where this is a new. This is like a new thing. Like this is completely new.
Yeah.
So, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it won't be for everybody up front.
Well, yeah.
Is there a price point that would at what point does it make economic sense to go this direction versus?
I would just say, before you talk, I would say if you're in the world of like ULXD and you're in that world already, you would start considering this. I think if your brain is already at that ULXD level, or you're already paying up for a better mic anyway. Now this is more expensive than that, obviously, but if you're not in that really lower SLX or QLX world and you're already in the upper level, then you should consider something like this. I think.
I think whenever you're looking at large scale deployments, like we're today, when you're looking at large scale deployment, it makes a lot more sense. I think in smaller channel counts, it's not quite the solution yet. I mean, straight up, I would say if you're running 8 channels or less, I think the cost factor of this is not going to weigh.
Right, you're already down in that other world. Anyway,
a couple ULXD quads, and you're fine. But I think as you get into larger channel counts, the cost of ownership of this versus the traditional way really starts to factor in. So the higher the system channel count, the more you actually benefit from having a unit like this.
Right. Can we take a look at some of the transmitters that we have for this?
Well,
so
I mean,
we have handhelds.
Technically, it's the Axient Digital and the ULXD. So
exact same.
Yep, exact same thing.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's meant to work with either Axient Digital or ULXD.
Gotcha.
Now the nice thing is this actually has, this is a little bit probably a little lackluster compared to this, but I'm still pretty excited about it, is the fact that we have now started shipping ULXD in that wideband frequency, that G57 we were talking about.
Right.
It was probably in preparation for this, but the nice thing about it is even for those people who it still makes more sense to just buy the traditional ULXD hardware, we have now moved to the G57 band. So that entire usable spectrum, no more having to buy it in frequency ranges and finding out which works best in my area. It's just G57 now for ULXD.
Yeah.
Wow.
And something you pointed out earlier at that meeting, which was important, is you can't do both at the same time.
You cannot do both.
It's either ULXD or Axient. You can't have Axient and ULXD at the same time on one ANX4.
That is correct.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe.
Another license.
Apparently, after seeing
anything
this,
you have,
nothing's
you can just
impossible,
sync to
so.
it. Well, let's talk about let's talk about the PSM, because I mean, this is also maybe even a bigger game changer, I think.
I think this is something that people have really been waiting on.
Dante on a PSM.
Yeah.
Digital in-ears.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people nagging me and asking me about when is this happening?
For
When
years,
is this happening?
probably.
For years.
Well, when
For
Dante's
years.
came out, probably, and they've already wanted this. So.
And the problem with, this is something that Shure's really had in development for a really long time. The problem has been Shure is a company that is known throughout the world, the largest tours. I mean,
for
it's,
sure.
so to have to be able to support that level of entertainment, latency in a digital system was always the stumbling block.
Right.
And it took a long time to figure out how to do this without creating, and trying to create imperceptible latency. Because once you get up to that tier of a performer where you're selling out, arenas and stadiums, there's a lot of artists out there that, a few milliseconds of latency, they can tell.
Especially with in-ears, because essentially what you have is a vocalist singing into a mic. So they hear their own voice in their own head as they sing.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you have that mic going to a console going to a processor to an antenna back out to a pack, from a pack to the in-ears. And if it's off, if that latency is too high, they're going to feel weird. They're going to hear phasing. I don't even know. It's just going to mess them up.
Sometimes it's just enough where they don't quite hear that precision in their voice when they want to be able to hit that note.
Yeah.
And to have it, almost muddied just even slightly. A lot of them can tell. So it took us a long time to come up with this, but it really just took off really, really quick. So finally having digital in-ear. So yes, Dante on in-ears, that's in and of itself is amazing.
Yeah.
The fact that I think running in both digital modes is about 2.8 milliseconds of latency, which for a digital device, that's not bad. I mean, If you still want to run it in analog mode, which we have an analog mode, I think it's down to 1.9 or something like that. So,
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're so close to what it was with analog already.
we're getting there. We're
Yeah.
getting there. And I think we have to be at this point because we all know that analog it's a bandwidth hog. It always
Yeah.
has been. I have to compand this analog. Remember, companders. That's a blast from the past. Having to have all this to, crush this signal and then send this analog signal out there and being able to switch it to, ones and zeros over digital and be able to just pack so many more channels. It was inevitable. We had to go this route because they're taking away our spectrum little by little. So we had to come up with an answer, and digital's been a great answer. And then this is just a step forward, the evolution of that.
Right. Well, let's take a look at this. So what do we have here?
Yeah, how do these setups work? What do you need? What are the main pieces you need to make it all happen? What is the hardware?
So these come essentially in two flavors. So we have the ADTD and the ADTQ. So one is for dual and one is for quad. So right out of the box, I can run this as either a 4-channel. If I'm looking at the TQ, I can either run it as a 4-channel analog system or what we call our narrowband, which is kind of like how Axient Digital ULXD works now. However, we put in, because we're leveraging that WMAS technology in this product as well, we can now add channel licenses. This is something we just started shipping. So we can turn a 4-channel quad box into 16 stereo channels.
Yeah, it's nuts.
All in one box. I know
Amazing.
when Ben and I were working on something very specific, just 4 months ago, we had one equipment list.
Yep.
And then just a matter of, a couple weeks ago, it completely changed from this many boxes in a rack to one.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and like you said, people have been talking about this for years. So the fact that it's actually available now is kind of cool. I'm excited.
I still don't believe it. So we're gonna have to install it and see it, and then I'll believe it.
I'm going to bring it in. We can all use it for the podcast.
That's
just
right.
to listen to
We
ourselves.
should. We should.
But that's the one thing that I was, again, sound is always a very subjective thing. But when we first got our demo in, we just basically played some tracks through it and just walked off the space. At first, it was just a range testing thing,
Right.
but we were blown away by the sound quality of this thing. The stereo separation, it is just light years beyond anything we've had before, and it just sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then just be able to have all these channels in a 1 RU box that we can contain and manage. We've over time we will add some of the features that already made kind of Axient Digital what it is today. As of right now, we do have the ability to run it in different modes. So the normal antenna running mode still has what we call true digital diversity. So 2 antennas, each picking up its own RF signal and then stitching them together. So if there is a loss on one antenna or the other, it's basically summing the information together instead of switching between the two.
Right.
Some older systems kind of said, okay, well, if A is bad, let's switch to B.
Yeah.
This is more of we are stitching A and B together so that you always have a constant signal. Axient Digital introduced something we call interference management, which I thought was a brilliant concept in the fact that I can actually assign a certain number of transmitters to a receiver channel. Anything that's not registered to that, I can tell I don't want it to work. So, and we have what we call interference management that will give me a couple options should somebody turn on a belt pack or a handheld that just happens to be that same frequency. I can either just have it throw up a warning to me and I can take care of it on my own, or I can have it actually just block that transmitter altogether, just block out the audio signal, even though it's in the same frequency range. We don't have interference management yet with ADPSM, but it is something that's on the roadmap. So a lot of those features that we have, we're going to be able to slowly roll into ADPSM.
Right.
Right now, we do have an antenna mode that I love called Spatial Diversity. Spatial Diversity separately basically lets me have antennas, 2 channels of audio per antenna. And what it allows me to do is, one, it allows me to create a more secure area so I can kind of like zone it out from, one to the other. But it also lets me create multi-zone areas. So if I have to have areas that need two different areas that need specific coverage. I can use the spatial diversity to have one antenna in one space, one antenna in the other. So there's a lot of options there that make the system a lot more bulletproof, which is kind of what I always said about Axient Digital when it first came out. It is a wireless system that we can make bulletproof.
Right. So with this new system, with all these licenses, how do we manage the licenses?
Well, Shure recently launched what they call the Shure Cloud. So a lot of the features from the older software, things like that, are going to be kind of migrating to the Shure Cloud. So the Shure Cloud is out there so that it can actually manage licenses. We will be at the point where we can do inventory management. For people who are running campuses, Shure Cloud will get into inventory management, monitoring, things like that. So Shure Cloud is quickly becoming the all-in-one interface for all of this. But the nice thing about it is all of these licenses will be available in your cloud account. So you can always have them there, be able to deploy them to units. If you need to switch them or transfer them to another unit, you'll be able to do that through the cloud. So like everything else, we're going cloud-based, and Shure is no different with that. So it'll allow us to pretty much manage everything.
Next level.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Future is here, people. We're doing it. Well, that's awesome. Anything else from Shure? Anything else cool coming out or coming,
Well, we did. I don't have it up here yet, but we did just launch what we call the DCA 910. So those people who are in kind of the install world were very familiar with the MXA series, the MXA 910, the MXA 920, 2x2, put it in a ceiling grid, array microphone that let me pick up just the areas I want. It was a huge hit for conferencing. So we've redesigned that with a little bit of a different interface that is more meant for live production. So it is, the example they keep giving is kind of like sports production, something you can put up on, a basketball hoop or something like that. So it's taking that same technology and being able to put it into more of a live application where we can almost imagine it like the evolution of the parabolic shotgun microphone that we always saw on sidelines in sports and things like that. So I don't know if I actually have it here yet.
So would that be like a good solution for like a room mic?
It could be. It could be. I've actually had some people that when it actually launches, which is probably going to be beginning of next year, maybe end of, we shall see. But I've already had people asking me about, they want to test it for just that exact same thing.
Right.
So room microphones, things like that.
Interesting.
Let me see if we...
Yeah, I mean, they have so many different microphones. I mean, we're obviously speaking into SM7Bs right now. Sure, SM7Bs.
I love it. Is amazing how this, especially because of podcasts, things like that, this microphone has had a complete resurgence. I think at this point, I don't remember the numbers, but it pretty much just dominates the podcast / YouTube scene at this point.
It's the Rogan mic.
It is. It
It's
really
the Rogan
is.
mic.
I mean, we all remember it as like the quintessential radio microphone that all your DJs had in the radio day, but it is really taken off and had a renaissance due to things like this.
And having the additional preamp in this version, what's this version called? It's called I forget what it is. But because
the SM7 DB.
DB, right. So this is a dynamic mic still. So, we're not, we're trying to compete here with other radio microphones that are condensers.
Right.
So that extra preamp is pretty helpful to get just a little bit extra pop out of these mics.
It is. That was always one of the complaints about the original SM7B.
You need a really good
like a cloud lifter or something, or a preamp that had a lot of gain to it.
Right.
This is a much simpler solution. I mean, for most people, especially in this environment, podcasters aren't really sitting around with a ton of really high gain preamps or cloud lifters and things like that. This is just a much more accessible version of it. And we have a digital version of it these days. So for those who don't have any outboard equipment, we have a digital version of it that's already got a USB-C connection built right into it. So.
Right. Yep. It's awesome. All right. So the DCA 901 broadcast microphone array. How many mics are in it? Do you know?
If it follows the same details, so the MXA series, as far as the 910, 920, was essentially made up of about 100 little small mic elements.
Wow.
And what it was doing is it was using basically phase algorithms to be able to steer sound coverage. So I'm not sure if the DCA 901 has the same 100 elements, but it's got to be very similar in that fact. It's very new, so I'm even still learning about it myself. Sometimes it takes a little while to get up to speed on new products, but it'll be an exciting addition in that live sound realm, that, you know, to take that that steerability, that, you know, be able to determine my coverage area and still get a very close representation from a distance. We've had that now with the MXA 910s and 920s in kind of like the corporate conferencing space for years now.
Right.
So to have it in this space, it's going to be really interesting to see, you know, some of the uses that people come up with for it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great. Well, anything else from Shure? Do you want to move on?
No, I think for now, I think we've really covered the bases with Shure. I mean, they've always got stuff coming, but I think this is the latest, greatest right now.
Yeah, the 80s stuff. I mean,
yeah. So we just kind of put together a system. You helped us put together a system for a client. We just met with them.
Yep.
So we're gonna rehash that, put that together to the exact specs they want. So
we're taking advantage of the licensing for it. So
exactly.
Instead of buying a lot more hardware, you're just going to buy licenses instead. There's a price savings as well with that, and a lot of space saving on your rack for sure.
Yeah,
cabling, everything.
Right.
That's one of the first things I looked at when we revised it. Is like, what does it look like differently from a cost standpoint?
There's a savings,
from a 16-channel system for 80 PSM, it was a pretty significant difference versus the way we originally had it done with each dedicated channel at a hardware box, 4 channels per quad box. It really came out a lot different.
Yep.
Right. So we'll do we'll try and do a before and after of that project. So we'll show all the mics that they have, the whole rack unit with all their stuff, all their combiners and all their everything. And then it'll just be like, 2-3 use.
It'll be 2 of those and 1 for the.
I was gonna say, can we get a video of them taking the second rack and just throwing it out at that point when they're
blow
done
it up?
with it?
We'll blow it up.
Donate it to somebody.
Yeah. So we'll do a video. We'll show that. We'll show the before and after of this older system to this newer system that we've been talking about, and then we'll prove that it's not black magic, that it actually does work. So you're saying something about there's some new products coming from Absen?
Yeah, there was one that really caught my eye, and you'll have to forgive me because I saw it at Infocom and it was a blur. As a matter of fact, I didn't know it was actually going to be at the show, but my first time at the booth, it just completely caught my eye because I just thought this was a very cool concept. Because we are all now getting to the familiar point where they're really the only things that really seem to noticeably change on direct view LED was just finer and finer pixel pitch.
Right.
We were at that point.
That's what I was going to bring up because I'll say it because of the iPhone coming out too. So Apple's done this for years to where the camera just gets a little better, the screen gets a little better, gets a little faster. At some point, what's the next thing that the big we were talking about with the mics, right? That's a big change in the technology. It's a big move. It's something brand new. So not like this is some kind of crazy technology or something, but it is just a different. It is a new thing. And it would be for our clients. I think people would like it because it's a very visual thing. And if you're building a new building and you're spending all this money to build this new building, and then you put, let's just go back to projector screens. So projector screens used to be this giant white box in your room that would just glow in the room no matter if the projector was on or off, right? It was an eyesore in your room.
Right.
You may have those now. I'm not bashing on your place. I'm just saying when you walk in, you see these giant white rectangles, right? At least LED walls were black. So they kind of disappeared in a way, but there's still now a black box on your wall.
Feels cold and sterile when I don't have an image on it. It really does.
So people are now well, how do we get rid of the black box? It's on and on and on. So Absen has this kind of
Are you telling me that Absen has created an invisible LED wall?
About as close as you can get.
Oh my goodness.
It is about as close as you can get. So I was, again, just being, I love what I do. I keep telling people, hey, you can make a living playing with our toys that we've always had. So I get easily just blown away by things. But so Absen had a wall that's leveraging what they call their KLCOB series, so chip on board. Yep. Won't go too deep into that, but there's a lot of advantages to chip on board. I think everything is moving that direction at this point. More energy efficient, more durable, allows us to get a little bit more contrast out of it. So all of our higher end walls these days are usually in the KLCOB range. So they took that technology though and said, well, what if we turned it off and it actually looked like something else instead of just that big black void that sits on the wall? So what they had is the actual tiles that make up the panels on this were printed to look like architectural materials. So at the show, they had marbles and woods and things like that.
Yeah.
So the idea being is when it's turned off, it actually looks like an architectural piece instead of that big black space.
Right.
And I thought that was great. So my first question was, not saying is like, great. How, what's the catalog of patterns look like?
Right.
And that's when they told me is like, oh, well, you don't have to worry about that. If you send us what you currently have, we will match that. So feasibly, I could put a recessed version of one of these walls in, and depending on, bezel and things like that, it could completely blend itself in with the existing wall. So when it's not running, I don't have the big white box or the big black box anymore. Right. I have something that just blends in and becomes part of the architecture.
So you can make it look like a wood wall. You can make it look like a stone wall. It could have signage on it. It could be a full welcome center or something. It could have, you could play along with it as well. I think I saw it at Infocom too. So you could have like the image, whatever, the background, the wood or whatever, and then still have the wood there and have images pop up in front of it.
It's still the KLCOB is all very fine pixel pitch. So we're talking about 0.7 to 1.8. So it looks amazing. I mean, it just kind of cuts through this, and when it's running, it still looks, it still looks absolutely phenomenal. But when you turn it off, it's just not the saying it's better, but it is way better than having that cold black look when it's not running. So I foresee a lot of places where even just as digital signage or advertising, this is just going to make a lot more sense in, a lot of public spaces.
Right. Yeah, so huge. So over the last couple of years, like this year, the 2.9 was, the new 3.9. So people are just doing 2.9 now. What's the next? What are we going to be doing?
I don't know. We were just talking about this earlier because every time I think there's no way we can go lower than this, like 0.9, there's no way we can. And then here's 0.7. And now I'm sitting here going, come on, we can't do better than 0.7. But you know what? They're all going to be like, here, hold my beer. Right. And from a year from now, we're going to see like 0.6, 0.5.
Yeah,
it's just crazy that again, it's like a lot of technologies, as research and development, the advances we make, it's just going to become smaller and smaller pixel pitch, better resolution, and the cost delta is just going to it's just going to keep getting better. I mean, I already think that we're at a sweet spot with DirectView LED. I mean, sure, I know people would love it to come down more. There's a lot of things people don't consider when they still first see that kind of initial sticker shock of DirectView LED versus projection or creating an LCD wall. And that's just shelf life. Even with today's projectors, sorry, Barco, I love you to death. And there's still applications that are projector still makes more sense.
Right.
But even today's laser-based technology, we're talking about, 20,000 hours to its half-life. And, for those of you who don't understand half-life, that's the point where it's pretty much half of its initial brightness.
Right.
LCD, good for about 50,000, but DirectView LED, 100,000.
Right.
And that's at full brightness.
Right.
Nobody, except they put it outside, runs their wall at 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
So DirectView LED is almost a lifelong investment. So to me, where the cost of these is at now versus it will stay until you want to get rid of it for that 0.5.
Right.
That's the one thing I'd always advise people to look at when they first see it. It's like, it will be more expensive up front, but the total cost of ownership is actually a lot less.
Right. And we talk about a lot when it comes to LED walls is if you're going to have it for that long, it's like having, it's a large investment.
It is.
You're going to have it for a long time. And that's why it's so important to use a reputable manufacturer, one that you can get a hold of if something goes wrong, if you need new parts, if you need to get things fixed. So as you know, you're competing with us, or the same as us, with a bunch of people selling these things out of the back of their car.
I am.
They white label them, and then they sell a bunch of product that goes bad, and then they disappear.
And that's really where it comes down. I mean, it still comes back to, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And there are a infinite number of LED manufacturers. It's like it almost trickles down.
Yep.
And like you said, you have to go to a reputable company because they have put in the infrastructure to make sure that that wall is supported.
Right.
Absen themselves, the new KLCOB, you can have up to a lifetime warranty on that.
Right.
They can ship you an extra percentage of spares. They can extend that out. Even if that product goes end of life, they promise that they will still be able to support it for another 5 years.
Right.
A lot of times people buy into this really, really great deal on a wall from, an unknown manufacturer that will sell direct to the customer. And then what ends up happening is, 1, no spares. 2, they have problems with them because quite often, most of your period of having panels go bad is usually right up front.
Right. At the beginning.
And so they start having panels go bad, and then all of a sudden the service they find out is non-existent, or at least just really horrible, or they're told things like, well, you know what, we discontinued that model 6 months ago, so we don't support that anymore.
Right.
So you have to be really, really careful. You really need a reputable manufacturer, and you really should have a reputable, trained integration company that can put it in. I've recently I started doing some lunch and learns for architectural firms. Like we have our CTS credits in this industry. They have their AIA credits. So I've been doing some courses that are very specifically around direct view LED and mounting solutions for them. Because we also do Draper. So Draper now does custom mounting solutions, which has been great. But one of the things that I really try to impress upon architects is, because we are getting into these finer and finer pixel pitches, the tolerance for how far any panel can be in any direction is, even a 1.2 wall, I have like 0.2 millimeters of play.
Right.
Anything beyond that, and I've got a misalignment.
Right.
Yeah.
And that misalignment is noticeable. It's not just when the wall's off. It creates a very visible aberration when you're looking at it. So if you don't have a trained group to put this in, a lot of people don't understand how much finesse you really have to put into installing one of these.
Yeah.
It really does take some finesse.
It does.
I remember our first one we ever did. I can't remember what it was, or it was probably, I don't know, 8-9 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But the amount of finesse it took to line up, make sure that every seam disappears and that it looks as best as it can, it did take a long time. And I was not expecting it, because I've seen some other walls go up by some other manufacturers that I won't name, where they just have some dude come in, fly it real quick, and it's like, all right, there you go. And you see the seams you
everywhere.
go sideways,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
seeing the modules popping out, you're seeing all this stuff. And maybe that works on the fly if you're on tour, like really quick to throw it up or whatever. But for most of what we do, it's install.
Yeah.
And so we spend the time. We have the shackles. We got the
Turnbuckles,
turnbuckles,
every
for
little connection we can make.
micro adjustments so
Yeah.
that every single pixel is so close and everything. And using your finger up against the seams to feel. I mean, it's a thing.
It really is. And as manufacturers, I think it's our responsibility to try to keep making that easier on the integrators, which trickles down, because if we can make it easier to install, then that's less time, billable time, that you have to be there.
Right.
I mean, we all remember when a lot of it was the Wild West. We were hanging walls on Unistrut and spending, and you could spend more than a week. You could spend weeks on trying to align a wall.
Yep.
It wasn't as mission critical, back when we had higher pixel pitches, but now that we're getting to the frontier that we're on,
Right.
it really matters. So from us as a manufacturing standpoint, that's one of the things I love about having Draper. Absen makes an absolutely great mounting system. I've heard a lot of people in the field saying they really, really appreciated the way it went together as a flat wall. Mounted on a wall.
Right.
But when we got outside of that, we've done some crazy projects where Draper is now just doing custom manufacturing. Anybody that ever gets a chance to go to Epic, all of that, or at least the majority of that, is Absen on Draper mounting. specifically the new Harry Potter ride, which is probably the world's largest fine pixel pitch wall.
Right.
That runs on multiple curves in multiple directions, and that's all something that Draper manufactured specifically for that. So
what was that wall?
Were they? Those are Absen?
It was Absen. It was an Absen wall. I don't remember exactly which model it was, but it's Absen wall on a Draper mount.
Do you remember the pixel pitch?
I want to say it was 0.9.
That'll
that
do it.
look nice.
Yeah, that'll look magical.
Yeah, and that was a really, really large 0.9. So yeah, that was an investment for Universal for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I can't wait to see it. Maybe I'll go in a year from now, like when you can actually get there on a Tuesday morning and not wait in an hour-long line.
Wild.
Us Floridians, we know.
Oh yeah,
that's rough.
Don't go to a new park.
Stay away for a while.
Away. Yeah. So yeah, that's huge, man. So that new, I guess, is it just the printed material that is typically the mesh around the pixels?
I'm wondering how
is
they
that what that
print it.
is?
I'm wondering if it's the
or is it
mesh.
over top of the whole thing?
That is a really good question. When it's off, it's very hard. Like when you're looking at it, it's very hard to tell. It looks like it's just printed over the top, and it's showing through.
It might be.
Maybe.
I think I've got some video of it from Infocom.
What I'm excited about is I was very, very adamant. I was like, can we, because Absen's U.S. headquarters is here in Orlando.
Right.
So I was very adamant, like, can we at least hold on to this thing for a while and let me go show it to people? Because that's what I love doing is like, if something's new, I want to go show it to everybody.
Yeah.
So they eventually told me shortly, not long after that, they were actually really excited about it. So they're revamping their entire experience center. So Absen has this great showroom in Orlando, which is awesome because, again, if you're putting that kind of money into something, to be able to see it ahead of time would be great.
Yep.
So they will actually be installing a version of this in the experience center, which should be open by mid-October with the refresh. Cool. So I'm excited to see it, and it'll give me a chance to really look at it in greater detail, pull it apart, flip it and look at it. Hey, if you guys want to come out and take a look at it or bring some people to look at it, it's open to everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I saw it, I was thinking of like lobby areas, guest check-ins,
Right.
Even like anywhere where you want that decorative look, but then need to be able to show information or signage or something like that. Like it just turns into a magical wall that looks great with everything else. It looks great with your interior. But then you can obviously play video. It's pretty huge.
What was David's quote earlier? I could do 5 of them right now.
Yeah.
The minute we were just talking about it, he's like, I could do 5 of them right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And he instantly identified, the beautiful walls you guys put in, but he's like, wow, we could do those side walls like this and it would just disappear.
Right.
That place that used to be that white box on the, flanking, your house left, house right of your stage.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you could like RAL colors or something like that for like a custom color. Like if it's up against a side wall in your auditorium and it's just it's a beige or a tan color on your wall, and you could just get that color printed on it.
I'm imagining you can. If they can match architectural materials, good solid color shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, especially for flush mount. If it was a flush mount solution, even if it's surface mount,
even if it's
even surface mount, you get the color, and then you could even paint the border.
Yeah,
pretty huge.
Yeah, just put a trim kit around it that has matches in or accents it at least.
Right.
Done. Then you're just adding some depth to your architectural feature at that point.
Right.
It's cool.
Right. So that was Absen. So that's a new product coming out from Absen. We'll try to get more information on that. Anything else? You got any other product lines? Any other cool things coming up?
I probably have a million, but I'm gonna wrap it up here. I think one of the ones that really we're starting to see a lot of traction or a lot of interest in both the church and the educational market is Listen Technologies. So a lot of people are probably familiar with Listen Technologies. We all know the good old RF or infrared hearing assist systems.
Yep.
Listen has really evolved. So it was several years ago we came out with a Wi-Fi solution that we called Listen Everywhere.
Yep.
That's evolved into Listen Wi-Fi, which is an amazing system. It just keeps progressing. But this year we came out with a whole new system called Auri, A-U-R-I. It is based off of the new Bluetooth standard Auracast. So for those who aren't familiar with Auracast is different from your traditional Bluetooth in that it is not a singular point-to-point technology. It is a broadcast technology. So I can do one-to-many with it. What makes it really exciting in the future is it's only right around the corner before Android and iPhone are incorporating this into their features already. Apple's already kind of gotten into this hearing aid mode. This is just going to roll into all that. So you'll be able to walk into a space with your own device, and the hope is, the dream is that your phone will just tell you, hey, I just walked into this space, and would you like me to connect to this channel?
Right.
So we have created something that already leverages that. So right now we have our own receivers. So it's pretty much an enclosed system. What's nice about it, it's we don't have to involve Wi-Fi, so there's no particular networking involved in case you run into that IT clash. And the fact that we can create a mesh network out of this. So,
Right.
And so we can do an entire campus with this. We can organize it into different features. But here's 2 channels, discrete channels of audio on this. So for hearing assist purposes, we can particularly choose a lower sample rate version, but has amazingly low latency. And I carry a demo kit with a Shure SM58 in it, and we demo it for people. It is pretty much almost imperceptible. So it is totally ADA compliant. But then we have another separate stream that we can set to very high quality if we want to. So if we're doing music or something like that, or a background message, we can have it do that as well. I'm excited about it because it's leveraging a technology that's coming, that's going to be very commonplace. It's open. It's an open license type of thing. It will be able to communicate via Dante. So we've got a Dante version of it. So I can create an audio network that has like one continuous channel that is everywhere, where the other channel can be localized to wherever you need it at. So I'm starting to see a lot of house of worship, a lot of education, especially higher education where you have entire campuses, because they can put in a hearing assist system that's easily manageable, doesn't have to leverage network, doesn't have to live in that 2.4 or 5 gigahertz range.
Right.
And it's just an easy solution.
Yeah, so I stopped by their booth at Infocom and chatted with someone about this, and so that technology is actually going to live inside the headphones themselves, right?
Correct.
So you will have a lot of new manufacturers are putting out products that already have the ability latent inside of it, ready to go, and they just haven't fully deployed it yet. But some of the possibilities would be like having a display or an info center type thing, and having multiples of them, and being able to geofence in the broadcast of that audio. So essentially, eventually it'll be like iPod, AirPod ears or whatever.
Right.
Will be able to walk up to a display and all of a sudden be hearing that audio from that display, and then move over, across the room to another display and hear the audio from that display.
And keep it very segregated to just the area you need it, like geofencing. It's a good way of looking at it.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's one of the exciting things about it, is because CROWNCAST is a open Bluetooth standard. This is not a proprietary Listen Technologies product. So yes, the hope is as more and more manufacturers come on board, there will be an intermingling of different technologies where you're not locked into this person's complete ecosystem. We'll be able to kind of mix and match. And like I said, our normal day-to-day consumer devices will be able to leverage it as well. So we'll just be able to have the technology that, again, bring your own device.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we use Listen Tech a lot for things like this. So hearing impaired or translation. So a big thing that churches do is they'll have someone translating the sermon or the service in Spanish or whatever. And so we'll put that audio track onto one of these Listen Tech. The Wi-Fi one, the Dante unit's been
Great
huge,
for that. Yeah.
amazing, super easy to set up, and essentially people just bring their own device, download the app, and click it. So it's a couple more steps in this new technology that you're talking about.
A little bit more.
A little bit. You get the app, you click it, and then now you get to choose your stream. You're choosing whether or not you just want to hear English, and so that you can turn it up so that you have hearing impaired, or you can listen to Spanish or whatever else you have on it.
Right.
Yeah, the hope is that, as more consumer devices adopt RCast, that it'll become a much more automated process.
Right.
But since we're just now heading down that road, there's so much potential for where we can go with this. Whether it's an entertainment medium, whether it's actually, assisted listening, where we're really helping people. It really is one of those areas where the proliferation of being able to bring your own device to these type of things. I know sometimes, hearing assist and ADA sounds a little mundane and it's kind of boring compared to video walls and, 24 channels of microphones in a 1RU box.
Right.
But again, I think it's equally important, because if you're not getting your message across to everybody, then you're failing some people.
Yeah.
And I think that comes down to sometimes a lot of people have put in things like hearing assist as an afterthought, like, oh, we better slap the system in there. But if you don't do a good system, you're still really doing a disservice to a part of your audience. And I think bring your own device really lets people enjoy the experience in a way that is comfortable to them. I think hearing loss is still kind of that one disability that people don't like to talk about.
No.
People are fine if you're in a wheelchair, you're in a wheelchair. If you're going blind, you're going blind. But people still, maybe because it can be hidden, people still just aren't comfortable walking up to a desk and necessarily asking for a belt pack and earphones. So a lot of people go through this experience, a bad experience, simply because they don't want to call attention to themselves.
Right.
And so I think as we've moved into this bring your own device mentality and technology, it's really allowed everybody to make sure that everybody in that crowd, that congregation, that classroom has the same quality experience as everybody else.
Right. Yeah, we've been looking for the modern T-coil, right?
Yes.
So, and the T-coil, you had to be ahead of the game. It was pre-construction. It was, it was quite the ordeal.
It was a nightmare if you did it anytime. If you tried to do it as a refurb or, add it to existing building, it could be a nightmare.
Good luck. Yeah.
And you're dealing with that magnetic or EMI from it. So if you have front fill speakers and kind of pick stuff up sometimes, you hear the squealing, and so it was, it had its issues.
It can get really complex. Europe, loop is such a huge thing in Europe, but I've found out that loop is not just running a big fat circle of copper around a space. We can get into creating multiple loops with phases, and we create phase dropouts in specific areas. It can get very, very intense to do certain spaces.
Right. Yeah. Well, this new technology, then hopefully that's the win. Everyone just has AirPods or whatever and walks in and, hey, I hear everything.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even these days, even hearing aid manufacturers are moving over to a Bluetooth standard anyway. So
there you go.
This is just becoming the norm. So again, even if you're in hearing aids, to be able to have the broadcast on your phone transmitting directly to your hearing aid is just, it's convenient, and it's pretty much the best experience for them.
Right. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming by.
No, it's fun. My first podcast. I love it.
Great.
This is about as nerdy as we've ever gotten, I think.
Is it? Yeah,
yeah.
I'm good at that too.
We're not the best at it, so you brought in an extra flair.
Oh, I can bring the nerd.
I love it.
I'll bring the nerd.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
We should say though, but I mean, we're dealers for everything we talked about here today. So any of you guys listening or watching, if you have questions about what we talked about, or you're interested in getting pricing or quotes or building systems, stuff like that, you can get in touch with us on any of this stuff. We'll end up talking to Michael, probably making sure it's all right, and then send you the proposal over.
Hey, we all work together as a team.
Right. Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work. Please like and subscribe. Tell your mom, tell your kids, hide your wife, whatever that is.
Hide your wife, hide your kids.
And we'll have your information there too, Michael.
Okay. Perfect.
So we'll be able to share that. But if y'all are looking for anything, any integration work, anything, you hit us up, www.crowndesigngroup.org and crowncare.help.
Nice.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Peace.